Hi everyone, and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I wanted to share with you guys my latest fall dessert recipe, and I'll be making my caramel apple pie cheesecake. So for this cheesecake, I'm going to start with a basic graham cracker crust. You can also use ginger snaps for this recipe. I'm going to make a caramel cheesecake filling, and then once the cheesecake is all done and ready to be enjoyed, we're going to top it off with some apple pie filling. Every single bite of this cheesecake is just so good. It's really light and fluffy, and then you add that apple pie filling on top, and it's just out of this world amazing. Let me show you how I make it. All right, so let's start with this graham cracker crust. So I usually use about 10 to 11 graham crackers. Just place these into a food processor. And then pulse the cookies for about a minute until you have fine crumbs. And then to the cookie crumbs, I'll pour in a 1/4 cup of melted butter. And the butter is just going to help bring everything together. Give that a pulse for about 30 seconds. And for this cheesecake recipe, I'm using a 9-inch springform pan, and then I wrapped up the bottom of the pan with some foil so the water doesn't get in when we're preparing the cheesecake in a water bath. I'm just going to transfer the crumbs into the pan. And then I like to use a potato masher to press the crumbs evenly into the bottom of the pan. This makes the process super easy, and it creates a really nice level crust. I have my graham cracker crust all done, so now we're going to switch gears and make the caramel cheesecake batter. So into my stand mixer bowl, I'm going to add in 32 ounces, so that's 4 8-ounce packages of cream cheese, and I've softened the cream cheese at room temperature. Add that in. And when you're making a cheesecake, it's super important to get the cream cheese really creamy and smooth and clump-free. So once I add the cream cheese into my mixing bowl, I'm going to mix it for about 7 to 8 minutes, scraping down the sides of that mixing bowl periodically until that cream cheese is really creamy. And as my cream cheese is mixing, I usually stop about 4 to 5 times to really scrape down the sides of the mixing bowl to make sure that everything gets incorporated. Next, into the cream cheese, I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of white granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and I have 4 large eggs. Drop those in, and I'm going to mix this for about 3 to 4 minutes. Scrape down the sides of the mixing bowl until I have a smooth mixture. And then to this cheesecake batter, I'm ready to add my caramel. So today I'm using 1 13-ounce can of dulce de leche. Now, if you can't find this in your grocery store, you can also use my homemade caramel sauce recipe for this cheesecake. Drop that caramel in and then give this a mix for about a minute. And last, I'm going to add in 1 cup of whole milk ricotta cheese. This cheese is going to make this cheesecake so fluffy. You guys are going to love it. Mix that in for about 30 seconds. And once you add in the ricotta cheese and give it a mix, the cheesecake batter is all done. Just going to pour it over my prepared crust. And then I'm going to place my cheesecake onto a larger baking dish, and I'm going to fill this dish up with water to create a water bath, and this will cook the cheesecake more evenly. It'll also help prevent any cracks from forming on top, and it's going to give the cheesecake a nice and level top. And this cheesecake is ready for the oven. I have mine preheated to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to bake for about 1 hour, 45 minutes to 2 hours until that center is just about set. It still has a little bit of wobble to it. At that point, what I like to do is just open up my oven door a little bit. I'll just put like a little wooden spoon to keep it ajar and let the cheesecake cool in the oven for about 1 hour. Then I'll take it out and let it cool at room temperature, and then let it sit in the fridge overnight. So that way it cools down really slowly. That'll minimize any cracks from forming on top, and then it'll set up beautifully. So while this is baking and cooling, I'm gonna show you how to make that apple pie topping that's gonna go so well with this cheesecake. And for my apple pie filling, I'm going to peel, core, and dice 4 large apples. You can always keep the peel on if that's your preference. And I'm just gonna place them into a large saute pan. And now that I have my apples all diced, I'm ready to add the rest of my ingredients. I'm going to grate in a little bit of fresh nutmeg. about half a teaspoon. This is going to add so much great flavor. And 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, 1 cup of white granulated sugar, and half a cup of water. And I'm going to grab a spatula and stir this all together so the apples are well coated with the cinnamon and the sugar, and then I'm going to bring this mixture up to simmer over medium heat. All right, so once this mixture comes up to simmer, I'm going to let it simmer for about 20 minutes. I want the apples to be thoroughly cooked, so they should be nice and soft, and let some of those liquids reduce. And these apples are looking good. I have just a little bit of liquid left in the pan, and the apples are nice and soft. I'm just going to transfer this into a separate bowl and let it cool down. I'm going to let these apples cool at room temperature, and then I'll store them in the refrigerator overnight, and we'll come back tomorrow to garnish our cheesecake. All right, my cheesecake has set in the refrigerator overnight. It is good to go. I have my apple filling done. I have some homemade caramel sauce. I also have some whipped cream. Now to take the cheesecake out of the pan, I'm going to use a little trick that I learned a while back. I'm going to use a kitchen torch and just heat the pan along the edges to release the cheesecake from the pan. Just go around the edges of the pan, heat it up with the torch. Now when you're doing this, the pan is going to get extremely hot, so you want to be extra careful and don't burn yourself. I'm going to top this cake off with some simple whipped cream. I'm going to include the recipe up on my blog. And then spoon in the apple filling into the center. This looks so good. Can't wait to try this. And then I'm going to top the cheesecake off with a drizzle of my homemade caramel sauce. And how delicious does this cheesecake slice look? I'm gonna top it off with some extra apple pie filling, and I'm also going to drizzle some extra caramel sauce on top. You can also add some whipped cream. This is going to be so delicious. And that's it, guys, for my caramel apple pie cheesecake. Looks so delicious. Time to dig in and enjoy. Going to get a little bit of everything, including some of that whipped cream. I just love having whipped cream with any of my cheesecakes. The flavors of this cheesecake are just out of this world. This is so good. When you guys make this at home, you're gonna thank me later. I love the caramel cheesecake. It's like perfect. It's fluffy, it's light, it has just the right amount of caramel, not too sweet, and then you have the apple pie filling on top. Those two combined together are just explosive. For the full recipe, just head on down into the video description box. I'll leave a link that'll take you over to my blog. I'll also leave a link for this homemade caramel sauce. This is so good with this cheesecake. Hope you guys enjoyed this recipe, and I'll see you next time.